we're going to jump right in. So Bjorn, if you haven't met him, I hope you get to meet him in person. He's around the U of A. He's actually a former U of A Razorback. So he's one of us, which is fun to have him here. He's a coach. He's a very successful entrepreneur and investor. And I love this saying, and I said this last time, but he says he's a catalyst for innovation and a champion for inclusive innovation. And so I absolutely love that. He has probably pitched over 1,000 times. He's pitched to investors in companies like Forbes, and he's raised millions of dollars and worked with many VCs to invest and grow their businesses. So if there's someone who is the expert and can talk to us today, it is Bjorn himself. Now, part one, like I said, was on investing and pitching to investors. And so if you didn't hear that, I'm going to encourage you to watch that on our channel. But today, Bjorn's really going to be focusing on closing the deal with customers and business to business relationships. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Bjorn. Bjorn, thank you for being here.
Awesome. Hey guys, thanks for the great introduction, Stacy. Super excited to be here for volume 2 of The Art of the Pitch. If you guys hear a little bit of noise in my background, sorry about that. I tried to find a quietest place, but I got stuck in the midst of the weather storm outside the country. But I'm here and I'm happy to be here and excited to walk you guys through this process. So as Stacy said last week, or our last session, we talked about the art of pitch and pitches to investors. This time we're going to talk about the art of the pitch and pitching to customers. This is all about closing the deal. And if anybody's in the room who attended the last class and have any questions, I'll open that up right now. You can drop them in the chat and let Stacy call them out, or and we can address those. And I'll give you guys a second. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my presentation. Let's see. All right, get your notes ready. I think this is going to be a good one. All right, the art of the pitch, pitching to customers. All right, so we're going to start this off and jump straight into it. Too often, founders and small business owners and business owners in general use the same presentation to pitch their investors as they do their customers. That is not correct. Your investor presentation, your customer presentation should not be the same. You should always tailor your presentation to your audience, right? And so when I'm talking to when I'm talking to companies about raising capital and raising capital through investors, I'm telling them they need to have their big 3, right? That's their pitch deck, that's their executive summary, and then that's their financials, right? Financial projections over the course of 5 to 7 years, which is what investors typically like to see. For customers, it's different. You need to have your presentation, demos, and testimonials. And of course, the executive summary works well there, but you need to have your customer presentation deck. You need to have an executive summary in some form of a demo are the 3 things that you want to give your customer. But do not send your customers your investor deck. All right. Again, do not send your customers your investor deck, because your customer's going to look at that deck and say, hey, what do you want me to do with this? I don't have $500,000 to give you or $5 million to give you, and I'm not ready to acquire your company right now. Although we all want to get to that big exit someday, that is not where you start when you pitch to your customers. So that's where we're going to take a deep dive in to how do you pitch to your customers. And of course, there are going to be some similarities, right? So you're going to have very similar themes around your mission, your vision, talking about your company, the story of your company, your story, and why you're passionate about this. You're going to build that into your customer presentation, but you're going to tailor that to add for a different ask, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. All right, makes sense? So everybody teaching that going through this course, you will not have or use the same presentation or materials for your investors that you do for your customers. You should have both. And they can be branded similarly, all those things, but they should not be the same. All right. So let's talk about structure. I got a little typo right there. Sorry about that. Sales. So on your sales presentation should have your intro, the overview of your company, your successes, testimonials, and your offering. Your offering should come with questions that ask your clients or your customers exactly what they need. On the investor side, it should be the introduction to your company. Very similar introduction. Talk about your story and all those good things. The problem, right? What is the big problem that you're solving for? All right, talk about it from a worldly perspective, big world perspective. This is the problem that we're solving for. What solution have you built? that market analysis, your team, and then of course making that ad. So we took a deep dive into that in the last presentation, but this presentation again, we were focusing mostly on sales. Again, so for your sales, you're going to have that overview of your company within your intro, but talking more about your company, how it's established, it's a fully functioning company, make us believe successes you had, testimonies and offering, and then get to those questions. So let's walk through this. For your customers, the presentation, the flow of the presentation should be different as well. It should be more conversational, right? We should be having more of a conversation and not a presentation. When you're talking to investors, you're talking directly to them and pitching to them, right? So they're going to give you 5, 10, 15 minutes to make your presentation. And then if they believe in enough, they're going to make that ask and hopefully cut a check. But for your customers, you really want a conversation because you want to learn from them just as much as you're selling to them, right? And so you want to really listen to the things that are going to help you close a deal. Essentially, they want you to fix their problem. Investors want you to make them money. Your customers really want to have a specific problem or need that either you've identified or they've identified within themselves, and they want you to fix that for them. So, but your investors love what you built, and they want to see how what you built can make them money. Can you turn idea, your service, your product into a big company and make them money? So there's a difference there, all right? For your customers really want, I'm deep in need. This is going to help me grow my business. This is going to help me cut costs, right? Efforts of time that we're spending, I increase efficiency and effectiveness. And investors don't want to get into the weeds of that. They're trusting that your operational efficiency is there. That's why they're investing in you, and they want to just have the trust that you're going to make them money. Other thing, your customers, you want to motivate them. Your investors, you want to inspire them, right? So for your customers, you want to motivate them to take action. You want them to work with you. You want them to buy. You want that transaction to move a lot quicker than an investor term sheet, right? Because the investing process can take a long time. Typically, 30 days to 6 months is the average investor conversation. And some relationships go longer than that. I mean, that the investor likes you, they're not ready to invest, and it takes 5 years, right, in order for them to cut their first check. Hopefully it doesn't, but sometimes I've seen it work out that way. Your customers, you want that to be you. This is a part of your own sales process. This is a process that you want to rinse and repeat over and over again. So you want to be able to quickly motivate them to buy. Same way when you go to the mall or when you go to shopping for a car, that salesperson trying to motivate you to make that transaction. That is the same approach you want to take with your customer presentation and how you're communicating with them. Motivate them to take action and work with you to solve that problem for them. Your investors, inspire them. Make them feel like you're the champion. Inspire them to go tell your story to other investors so you raise more money. And then lastly, for your customers, they want you to save the company. Right? Sometimes they have personal agendas. Oftentimes they don't. If you're talking about B2B companies, meaning that you're pitching to another business. If you're a B2B business, meaning I'm a business and I sell to other businesses, oftentimes that person who's going to be purchasing your product wants you to save the company. It's to the benefit of the company. Now, if you're a B2C and you have a direct to consumer product, you're selling consumer packaged goods, clothing, anything, those kind of services, they still want you to make them better. Right? People want you to make them better, whether it's look better, feel better, increase their motivation, their aptitude. They still want to make them better. But if it's a B2B operation, I do a lot of B2B companies. My own personal company is a B2B company. If they want you to save the company, they really want your solution to be something that they need is going to help them increase, again, effectiveness and efficiency. Your investors, they want to know that you can save the world. They want to know that they found the next Uber, they found the next Tesla, and it's in you. The next Facebook, the next Mark Zuckerberg is in you, and they want to believe that you can save the world. And so your presentation there should assure them, make them feel good, get them excited, but give them something to believe in. Because again, you want them to run off and be your champions and sell and selling your business to others, introducing you to other customers, introduce you to other investors, introduce you to talent. You want them to work with you, and you want your customers to buy from you. I'll pause there. Any questions? Stacey, will you let me know if any questions pop up in the chat?
You bet. I'll monitor the chat. Guys, feel free to drop stuff in there and we'll come back to it as Bjorn goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So essentially, know your audience, right? Oftentimes your customers are going to know a lot about the problem, right? They're going to know the problem. They have the problem. They know a lot about it, but your investors may not know anything about it. So you're going to be introduced to them. So you tailor your presentation to that. Build relationships. Your relationships are key. That's the name of the game in this business. Having a relationship with your customers is how you have those repeat customers. You want your customers to be loyal to you. You want them to find value in their interactions with you, your company, and the products and services that you want. But always go into those presentations, those meetings, those introductions with customers, building a relationship, because relationships sell longer. You can't have transaction relationships where I'm buy from you one time, but nobody wants that. People want to have those long-term relationships where they have those repeat customers and it builds brand loyalty. Like me, I'm a loyal Apple consumer. Everything I have, from iPhone to MacBook to iPad, Apple, everything. But I also I feel like I have a relationship with the brand, as superficial as it may be. Going to the Apple store and being able to have that one-on-one connection, knowing I can call somebody and working with their team, that makes me trust the brand. And especially when I've had, PCs in the past that are broken down in 30 days. But building that relationship is a valuable for yourself, for your company, and for your brand. Sales pitch structure. All right. So let's talk about the structure, and we walked through this a little bit, where we're just going to talk about what each slide should look like. All right. For your sales pitch structure, again, have that introduction, telling your story, having to ask about the problems, introducing the problem and services. Impact. The impact is really good. That's showing how your product, your service has changed the results for another company, right? And so that impact should be measurable, right? And should also come with ways that you differentiate your product or your service from other competitors in the market. And then have testimonials. Have those testimonials there showing that, hey, this customer had a great experience with my product. And if you don't have a product off the ground, you're trying to get some of those early sales off, talk about some of the researchers that you work with, any experts. That's why customer discovery is really, really important. Get in before you even go to market, give me your product away for free, or a service away for free. It's okay, right? Just limited, but it's okay, because what it does is it puts it out in the market. You get to test that solution. You get to get that feedback that you need to really scale that thing. And then your investor pitch, again, we talked about this more in depth last week, but you're going to go through the intro, the problem, the solution, talk about the market, how much money is going to make them, your traction on the team, and then again, always end with that ask. All right, so let's dive a little deeper. The problem. All right, so we talked about overview of the company. We talked about telling your story in that through the presentation. Let's talk about the problem. You're going to ask questions towards the need for your solution. So what does that mean? So instead of talking about how big this problem is, right? My company was Wiser, right? My startup. And so we were building big data solutions or game-like surveys to help brands communicate with customers in real time. And so what we wanted was to make sure that a customer can give their brand their experience at the point of experience, not 2 weeks later, not an email. We want it right there in the moment, right? So what are the problems that we were solving for? We were talking about how the question we needed to ask and understand from our customers when we went to pitch was, how are you currently collecting data from your customers, right? How are you currently measuring your experience, right? How are you currently taking survey data and implementing it back into your business? These markers that I have right here are great starter questions when you're talking to customers. How are you currently doing something, right? How are you currently capturing data? How are you currently working with tailor that into your business, right? So I would encourage you guys to write these 3 questions down. These are great starters to when you really want to engage and understand the problems of your customers. How are you currently doing something? Then, did you know that customer attention span is shorter than ever, right? Consumers want to be reached in the moment and digitally. They don't want to fill out paper surveys anymore. Even senior citizens, in addition, senior people, senior consumers, in addition to young people and teens, don't like doing paper surveys anymore, right? And when we went out and did a field test, we were able to see this. There was no fluctuation in age, but there was a general consensus that people don't like doing paper surveys anymore, right? So same, tailor that for your business. Did you know X, Y, and Z? Did you know these trends were happening? Did you know the market was changing? Did you know the pandemic had this impact on this environment, right? Those things demonstrate that you have some level of expert. Those conversations demonstrate some level of expertise and thought leadership and what you're doing. And so it's a great way to introduce your service, your company, your product to the customer, while also building a conversation that lets them share their problem. These questions are meant to stimulate your customer to give you what their personal problem is so you can tailor that solution, and hopefully your solution is the right solution. And then how are things? The general comments, if you can't figure out the best way to add the top two questions, how are you currently, did you know? Just ask them, how are things? Open the floor up, right? And if the meeting is tailored, right, your champion, that person that's there, is going to tell you how they're doing, and they're going to tailor their response to the purpose of that meeting or that conversation, right? So you can ask them, just how are things going in this certain area, in this sector? How they think about things, how things change, know your audience, know what they're doing, always go to Google, check Google News and search that company, or, you have some background information on whoever you're going to be speaking to, and those people in the room, and just ask them how things are, and open that conversation up. Again, the goal is to build a relationship and then get them to share their problem with you. All right, introduce your product. Introduce your company's product or service as the ultimate solution to that problem, right? And so we built X, Y, and Z. Again, within that presentation, make sure you have that demo, right? So you have a demo or video and showing your product, your service in action. Those are really, really good, and they help close the deal. Again, you want that customer to believe in you, have that relationship, and then value what you're bringing to the table. Demonstrate impact. Share your solution, share how your solution came to life, and now helping customers in a major way, right? How did it come to life? We started in 2017 doing X, Y, and Z, conducting research in this space, right? Now we are doing X, Y, and Z. We are selling to 1,200 businesses across the world, right? Or now we are, and for us, it was gamifying surveys, and we can capture up to 25 questions in under 60 seconds, right? And it's worked, right? Customers are now reaching more customers, getting more data fast, right? Every customer in any field, I promise you, wants their solution or whatever they're buying to be fun, fast, and easy. Right? So how does your solution do that? How does it make things fun, fast, and easy? Unless, and this can be tailored in different ways, right? If you're in the healthcare space, you're creating a new vaccine, I don't know if we want that fun, fast, and easy. We want that well vetted and well researched. But generally in innovation world, fun, fast, and easy is a general consensus of satisfaction when we're thinking about increasing effectiveness and efficiency when you're talking to customers. Utopia. So we talked about the problem. They shared their problem, right? You shared the solutions that you built and how it's worked over time. Now you want to talk about utopia, right? List 3 to 5 ways that you can personally save their problem, right? You created this company, you created these solutions that are changing, the game for your customer base. Now tailor it to your customers, right? And describe how you envision this solution working specifically to the problems, and hopefully it's those problems that they share. Through their conversation, you should pick up on the problems that they have and then tailor your solution to that. Communicate the big value proposition. This is going to save you money. It's going to make you more money. It's going to make you look good. It's going to save you time. It's going to be fun, fast, and easy, right? These are things that customers want to hear when they buy something. You got to think, especially if you're selling in a B2B space. In my experience, we were selling to Procter & Gamble and Disney and Walmart, and in those roles, they're hearing they're hearing vendor pitches all the time. Right. And so they want your pitch to stand out and be seamless. They have to trust that you're going to make their job easier at the end of the day before they give you that purchase order. All right. And so communicate that big value proposition. Don't just say, hey, I had the greatest solution in the market. Why is it the greatest solution in the market? Not because it's pretty and you did it, but how is it going to affect my business? How are you going to tailor that and show that I can trust you to get this done? And then be very, very clear that in introducing your product. Be very, very clear on the process, the introduction to your team, how you're going to introduce that product to their business, right? We're going to integrate this. It's going to take X amount of time, but the integration will be seamless. Right, we're going to walk you through. We're going to be hands-on with this, especially if you're introducing like new software or even new hardware that you want this business to take on. How hands-on are you going to be, and how are you going to support them through that process? Make it a utopia. I'm going to make your job easier, right, or life easier. Testimonials. Share the testimonials. Testimonials, it make the customer feel like they can be this too. You can be one of these people. And I'm for the purpose of the presentation, I'm being slightly facetious, but seriously, you got to show their customers that they aren't going to be the only ones. Now, some customers want to be the first to market, right? They don't want to be doing the same thing that their competitors are doing. So you have to be knowledgeable about that. And so those things you want to pick up throughout the conversation and throughout the relationship. But sharing testimonies is always great. These testimonies should be in your presentation. They should be in your investor presentation. They should also be on your website. All right, customer one should say, love it, simply. High satisfaction, right? Highest point of satisfaction. The customer or that loved your product the most, that's always raving about you, put them on your marketing materials. Why? Because they are your champion. They'll start selling for you. And then if they feel like you value them enough to recognize them, oh my God, they'll start being free salespeople for you. All right. So that customer that truly loves your business, always raving about you, share them. Customer two, efficiency, right? And effectiveness. It saved me or my business money, time, or business, right? Customers. And it saved me money. I made more money. It saved or made. It saved me money or gave me extra time, or it saved my business or made me business, right? Meaning my customers, I grew, my business grew. So that second customer, that other testimony should be how your business made their business more effective or efficient. All right. And same thing for B2C companies, right? As you selling directly. How has this product benefited someone? So allow that testimony to be all about benefits. And then let your industry expert come in and simply say revolutionary, however they need to say it. Right. This is an industry expert that knows you've tested it. This can be a person that you've given away for free. It can be a professor at the university that's researched this, that studied it. It can be somebody who is an industry expert that's well recognized. Give it to them. Let them try it. Right. In our world, the big data world, we let Nielsen try it. Right. We understood that Kroger at that time, a company called 3680. I mean, they had a company called it's not 3686. My brain just went there. But anyway, Kroger has a data arm that operates all their data mining engines. But we gave our product to them for free to show how our back-end dashboard worked and how our gamified surveys were increasing the operation efficiency. This happens with other customers as well, right? Other businesses that I work with. Identifying that industry expert on LinkedIn or social media or wherever, or oftentimes within your customer base, right? They are a champion that works for the company you're trying to sell to, that tests the solution and has introduced it to their company, right? But that industry expert is vital. And you identify the person. Sometimes it's a young startup founder in Silicon Valley who's been researching this and built a product and sold and all that kind of stuff, and they know. But identify that industry expert and you get that testimony too. So 3 testimonies: high satisfaction. The other is benefits and how it's benefited your customers, and then some industry expert. Those 3, of course, you can have more, but from a general topic standpoint, these are the testimonies you're looking for. Business model. Share your business model, right? So I've kind of broken the business model down on how you can introduce it to your customer. This is not, the white combination definition of introduce your business model. This is kind of what I've seen and what I've seen that works, right? So I start with 1, be transparent, right? Be transparent with your business model. And this should include you as a person. This should include you that's selling to them. Make sure that they know that you are involved in the process, right? That you that's selling to them is going to ensure that the business goes well, right? The transaction goes well, all right? And then use the 4 Ps. Pricing, how much does it cost? Let them know. Be very transparent about this. Process, how will it be delivered? How will I get this? Products, what am I getting? And then the people who I'm going to be working with. All right. Let them know. Be very transparent about that up front. It'll save you a ton of hassle and problems on the back end. And it's also something that you should be able to rinse and repeat with your business. Whether it's a product or service, this is something you should always be able to do in rotation and for you to be operationally efficient. So then last, I'm pretty sure everybody's heard this, if anybody's in sales roles, but always be closing. And so what does that mean? Get as many yeses throughout the conversation as possible. Yes, I have this problem. Yes, I like what you're doing. Yes, I want to buy. Right? Get those 3 yeses, and those are the yeses that will close the deal. Yes, I mean, of course, from a car sales standpoint, it can be over the top. You can be closing too hard. But if you have a relationship and you're doing B2B sales, establishing a relationship, you are always closing by building that relationship. I'm closing because I want you to trust me. I want you to trust my business. I want you to trust the brand that I represent. I want you to trust what I'm doing, right? And I'm always trying to close this deal. But those yeses are what you need. Yes, I have this problem. Yes, I like your product, your service, your offering. And yes, I want to buy. Cool. And then that's the meat of the presentation. All right. And then I kind of sped it up in the interest of time because I know last time I was speeding through, but I wanted to get this of course my contact information. I wanted to get through this and then start talking details and get you guys a little bit more interactive. I have a couple things I want to show and share, but let's talk.
Awesome. Hey, Bjorn, we have one question that's already come in from Conray, and he said, what are the most common mistakes people make when they are first starting out and looking for investors or customers?
Common mistakes that people make when they're first starting out looking for investors or customers. Not being organized, right? And so they have not gone through and thought through a process on understanding exactly what they're offering and then introducing that. And so, and again, the process is different. We're gonna jump around a little bit. Let's go here. Again, the process is different, right? And so when you're talking to an investor, you want that investor to invest into the longevity of your business, right? You want them to be committed and to be an ally and working partner with you throughout that process, right? And so investor is a strong relationship. Too often, entrepreneurs are pitching for investors and they only want the dollar. And so bad checks and bad money is a real thing. All right. And so we want to avoid that as much as possible. Make sure you're establishing a strong relationship with those investors. And investors honestly invest in people over ideas. Right? And so they will invest in the team. And I went into in depth on this in the last presentation, but they oftentimes invest in people because they trust and they know that's the team that can deliver on this. And they want to work with those people over time. Think about it. If from a startup founder, you go from a small 5-person team to where if this thing scales, you're hiring tens of hundreds of people. Right, to go to a big company, the investor still only wants to interact with that C-suite team. Right? They don't want to know all 100 employees that you have. They want to invest. They want to interact with you, right? The founder, the C-suite executives, maybe the board, right? But oftentimes the board and investors are at conflict. You should be. That's a conversation. But your investor relationship, and when you're getting started and ready to go pitch to investors, so of course we talked about the tangibles. Have your executive summary, have your pitch deck, have your financials ready. But what you're looking for is a relationship, a vested partner between yourself, your business, and that investor in their entire network, right? Those who invest along with them, know who they invest with, know what they've already invested in. Their portfolio becomes your asset, right? Because now you have access to other companies and other founders who may be doing complementary work or building complementary solutions or innovations. And so those things are very important. And then you also want to make sure that the investor has vested interest over time, that they're not going to leave you high and dry. There's bad money out there. There are some investors who cut a check and never reach out until they want you to start paying them back. You don't want that relationship. You really want those relationships with investors to be vested. So they would to kind of walk along with you. They're going to be fostering introductions to help you solve problems because I think I was going to talk about this in a later workshop. Founders go from early stage founder, I have an idea that I'm a C-suite executive overnight once you get the investor check, right? So they're not going to be looking at you as just a young startup founder anymore. You got to turn that t-shirt into a suit and start handling business, right? And those things are really, really important. And so you want to make sure you have a relationship with the investor. On the customer side, customers is transactional. It's a rinse and repeat model. It's all about being effective and efficient, right? How can we do this over and over again to build our sales operation, right? So what does that process need to be? What do we need? What works and what doesn't work? You know, customer relationships are tailored over and over again. Sometimes it's completely digital, especially in digital economy now. This process we're talking about through a sales pitch, these things can be completely digital. It can be all on your website. This is what can be shared on your website from, I'm introducing my company, landing page is what you see. Here are the problems that we identify. We know the area. Here are the products and services we offer. Here's the impact that we've made over time, showing that using visuals like graphs, saying here's what the change that we've seen. Differentiation. Here's how we're different from all our other customers. Testimonials, and then the ads. This is how much it costs. This is how you sign up. All of this can be streamlined online, digitally as well. I'm talking today about presenting and making sure that you're not presenting the same way to your customers as you are to your investors. I know that was a long-winded way of answering that question, but does that answer for you?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Conrad. Great question. We have another question here. If you are given only 3 to 5 minutes for your pitch, then what is the focus of the pitch?
You want to get through the same process as quickly as possible, right? This is stick to your model. Do not create a pitch. Feel like you have to create a pitch every time you go pitch, right? There should be certain things that you know to where you don't have to read from paper every day, every time you go pitch. There are certain things you know. I know my company. I know the problem. I know the market. I know my traction. I know the process, right? These things can be baked into your mind, and you're only tailoring it to the audience that you're speaking in front of. All right, and so so make sure that you know what keep this structure, that you know these things, right? And then you tailor that and you condense it as you see fit. So let's talk about the setting for a 3 to 5 pitch, 3 to 5 minute pitch. So if it's a 3 to 5 minute customer pitch, that means it's rapid fire, right? I'm catching you. That means you got a lead, and they said I'll give you 15 minutes. I have 15-minute window. That means you have 5 minutes to pitch. You have 5 minutes to have a conversation. You have 5 minutes to close the deal, right? And you have to break it down because the conversation piece is so important. If you go through an entire customer presentation and they don't ask a single question, you're in trouble. It's probably a no. Investors, on the other hand, though they should ask questions, investor may love your solution and not say anything to you and have your team call you and say, hey, we're ready to cut a check. It's weird like that. But in the customer presentation, if they don't ask you one single question, the chances are it's probably a no, unless you wow them and they're ready to sign immediately. All right. And if you do that, you just keep using that model over and over and over again. But for 3 to 5 minutes, you want to go through this process as much as possible. But the conversation piece is what's going to close the deal. The reason why you still go through the pitch is because you always want to be seen as a trusted expert. You always want to be seen as a trusted expert. So that allows them to trust you as the provider and also know that your solution is the solution that they need. But you really want to get to the conversation. You really want to know what their problem is and their personal problem. Of course, you've already identified the macro problem. You really want to know what their personal problem is and how you can build a proposal that's tailored towards them. That answer your question?
I'm not sure, but I hope that it did. I think it did. You can write in the chat there if it didn't, and we can expand a little bit more, but I think that was good, Bjorn. Thank you. Oh, perfect. Great. They said yes, perfect. That's awesome. All right. I don't want to delay you. Does anyone else have any other questions that are coming up for them? I had a quick question for you. Since you pitched kind of Wiser, can you tell us a little bit about maybe how that looked for you between the sales and the investor pitch for that specific product, like as an example?
Absolutely. All
Awesome.
right. So that's what I'm going to show you guys as well. But for our investor deck had more of a save the world, we're the team, we're trust us to do this, right? The sales presentation was a product offering. Here's what we can do for you, right? Again, you really want to be able to differentiate that really well within your presentation. And your customer materials, you oftentimes want to leave that with them, right? And so it needs to be clean, polished, easy to understand, something they can seamlessly walk through, right? And even when I work with other businesses, is making sure that can your customer take this, digest, is it enough information for them to make a decision if they need to walk away before they make a decision, to understand what you offer and then come back and make a trusted decision, right? And so the difference from the big difference would be our investor deck again is here's our company, here's where we're building, here's where we're going. The sales presentation, here's what we can do for you, all right? And it's highly focused on demo, what we've done for customers, and the benefits of that. So we're spending a lot of time talking about, how it improves, again, efficiency and effectiveness. We decrease time, we increase satisfaction, it works seamlessly. We were hands-on through that process, right? And you want to get as close to that as possible. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Let's see, let me pull up. Got some examples here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just for a second. All right, any more questions? I like this conversation style. This is a little different from what we did last time.
This is good. Question and answer is always fun. So we do have one more question. It'll move away a little bit from I think the examples you were going to show, but you can answer it now or later. It's any tips for pitching yourself, like for job interviews, etc.
Tips for pitching yourself, like job interviews. That's a good question. Let me think about that. So for pitching yourself, I think what you really, as a person who hires others, right? I want to know, if you come to interview me, that you've thought enough about my company to know what you're going to personally do, right? That you've identified, you've done some research. I want to know what you are personally going to bring to the table, as opposed to, I have a great resume. I was always a leader on campus, and I just graduated with 3.5, right? That doesn't always work. I love hiring creatives because creatives are very passionate about their work. Now, those passionate people still have to be matched with discipline, right? Have you demonstrated discipline to where you can tailor your passion and turn your passion into impact and results? But are you a results oriented person? And can you demonstrate that and how that would impact my business? How you want to come to a job interview, right? And you present yourself in that way. I am, I can, and I will, right? Essentially is what you want to bring to the table with them. And recruiters know when you're giving them the blanket template, here's who I am, job interview process. They understand that really well. But what you really want to, again, personalize that. Make sure you've done your homework. Make sure you follow, some trends of that company. You can go after the jobs you really want. You know what I mean? And is this an industry you've been passionate about? Have you tailored your resume to illustrate this? Have you put together, do you have a portfolio of work that you can share? Portfolio of works really sell. Are you entrepreneurial? Yeah, I think every company is asking that question now. Entrepreneurial activity, right? Have you done things on your own? Can you think on your own? Can you think and execute? Are things that I think employers want to know. So as a person who's hired, again, I want to know, what can you personally bring to my business? And especially if you want to go work for a startup, because startups don't have a lot of money and they don't have a lot of time. They have a runway to grow and scale. So they need people going to hit the ground running. The worst thing you can do for a startup is go into a startup and waste the time, because that founder is probably going to hate you and talk about you. You may come out in a Forbes article or TechCrunch later. So you don't want to do that. But A startup environment is a very, very fast environment, right? And this is no shade to, big corporations like Walmart. Those are things. I think the training and development that comes from those corporations is great. In the startup world, you don't have that, right? You're going to get limited training, very hands-on. It's all about, can you think of your own? What can you bring to the table? If there's a problem, can you come to a solution instead of creating more problems? Because the last thing you want to do is be an employee that creates more problems for that company. No, you have to be solutions oriented. And we love innovators. Think outside the box. Innovators, you are problem solvers. At the end of the day, innovation is just a world of solutions. So as an innovator, you're a problem solver. So always be thinking in that way.
That's an awesome answer and hopefully applicable to a lot of people here. And Faye wrote this down. I think it's great in the chat, which Bjorn said, but I can, and I will. That's an awesome way to frame any sort of interview. So awesome tip there. We have one more question. If you're good with it. How much time should you spend researching your potential customer or investor? How deep do you need to go?
As deep as you want to go. All right. So if you're a company, and I want to know in the chat, let me know who already has a company. If you have a company, that drop your company name or raise your hand to do something, so I know who already has a company, who's already entrepreneurs in the audience, and those who are looking to start a company. Also let me know that too. But how much time should you spend researching your investors and your customers? I'll start with the investors. Your investors is, again, as much time as you put into it. The more time you put into it, the more it's going to come through when you're in front of them, honestly, because that investor will be able to understand that you've done your work, right? And you're seeking to build a relationship and not just take their money. If the first time an investor feels like you're just going to take their money, they're out, right? And and the investor community is small, although it seems huge and vast. VCs in Silicon Valley talk to VCs in Chicago and Northwest Arkansas, right? And so the investor community is small. That's how they share deals so much. And so, yeah, one of the most surprising things for me as a startup founder was pitching to a VC and then going to another VC like 2 weeks later, and they're in completely different places, going from Columbus, Ohio to Miami, and they're saying, and them telling us what they already know about us. Right? That would shock us every time. And that let me know, this is before I became an investor myself and worked for a VC fund, that investors talk to each other all the time. There's a very, very small community. So you should know them just as much as they're going to know you. And maybe that one person, that personal managing partner, or whoever you're talking to, at the analyst at the time, whoever you're talking to at that firm, the analyst knows, the managing partners may or may not know. But the analysts, they know. It's their job to know you, to do due diligence on you. They're going to go pick up everything that's on the internet, anything they can find from their network, they're going to pick it up, right? Anything that's on F6S or any of those tools that are tracking startups and early stage businesses, they're going to pull all that stuff to pull their own due diligence package for you. But I am convinced, and when I'm working with startups and early stage companies, have your own due diligence package, right? Have everything, your own background on your company that you can share. What's the history of your company? Where can they find you online? What's some of the media that you want? Are any accolades? Are there any issues that you face that you're going to have to address? Right? Have you paid your taxes? Right? Make sure that you have your own due diligence package, and never go into an investor meeting blind, especially because if you go into that meeting, the investor says yes, and then you lose the deal in due diligence, you're going to kick yourself in the rear. So make sure you have your business in order before you go start pitching to investors. And so know their portfolio. I guess here's the tips. Have your own due diligence package, right? And have your own due diligence package that you know. And if you have an attorney or some attorney in your network, talk to them about what that needs to look like. Know your investors. How big is their fund, right? How often do they invest, right? Some investors only invest 4 times a year, right? And they're on their 500th meeting with the startup, right? And it's October, okay? And they've only made 3 deals, right? So there's only 1 deal left. So you can know what you got to come in with. These are questions that you can ask, because the investors, you're vetting them as much as they're vetting you, right? you want the right investors in your company, because the right investors are going to scale your company. The wrong investors can kill your company really quickly. And so know their portfolio, know how often they invest, and the size of their fund, know who's cutting the checks. And so you're not spending a ton of time with an intern who likes your company and is just trying to get it pitched. You're actually talking to a deal maker. And so know who you're talking to, know who cuts the check, and then know what the timeline, these questions that you can ask, like what's the timeline typically on closing the deal and getting the term sheet off the ground. Some investors say, hey, we can get a term sheet to you tomorrow. Investor deal is not in process or in progress until you have a term sheet. Right? Once that term sheet is floating, that's what you're negotiating against. But before then, you are not being vetted for that deal until that term sheet is starting around. They can be building a relationship with you, and they'll build a relationship for years, but you really want to get to the term sheet as quick as possible. So those take those tips. Have your own due diligence, know their portfolio, know how big their fund is, who's making the decisions, how often they cut the checks. And then the size of the check. That's also a question. Always ask what size checks. Where do you invest? What stage company? Early stage company. Make sure you know the stages of the company. Seed, Series A, B, C, D, all the way, right? But starts at seed. Some are pre-seed, meaning that you're early stage company. You don't have much market penetration or traction. And so we invest in companies at pre-seed stage. It's probably smaller checks, but you don't have to have a sale in order to close the deal on pre-seed money. But ask them that. What stage company do you invest in? And then typically, what's your check size? This is jargon that they know, and say it like that, you'll be fine. Customers, I know that was long-winded, but I want to give you guys in depth. Customers, know your sales team should have a due diligence process, right? Maybe it's 30 minutes the day before the meeting, maybe it's longer, depending on the size of the deal. So I would say tailor the due diligence on your customers based on the size of the deal. If you're a B2B company, you're selling enterprise level solutions, meaning that you're looking for a $25,000 check or more from a big corporation, you need to have some due diligence on it, right? And when you're selling to big corporations, i.e. Walmart, whoever, that deal usually doesn't go through unless purchasing is involved, right? So there is a procurement person that signs the deal, signs the check. Even though you may be with a brand manager or whatever, they have a threshold to where they can cut a check without having to go through procurement. So you need to know that. But if it's a larger size deal, multi-year deal, oftentimes they have to go through procurement, and that's a process, right? So when you're pitching, early stage company, just getting off the ground, you just want to get your solution into these big companies. Ask that champion or point of contact, hey, what is your spin on an innovation like this, on a tool like this, right? Is this something that you can approve? Or is there somebody else on your team that should be here once we get to the approval stage, right? These are business questions, all right? You don't have to worry about how they're going to feel about you asking the question. They know you mean business when you start asking those questions, right? And so if you are working with a supplier, you're working with a buyer that's looking at suppliers, and ask them, what's your check size? What's your spend on a solution like this? Is it something that we can deal that we can close directly with you, or do we need to get in procurement involved in this process, right? And so those are really, really standard questions that you need to do. When you're doing B2C and if you have a transactional solutions, go as far digital as possible. That means you got to know your market, meaning that you should know that this particular audience, person, demographics, location loves your product, and this is how we market to them, right? So if you're selling, I don't know, I work with a company, FinPack, April Roy. She's in the business of periods, meaning that she's created a solution for women who have impromptu or surprise periods, right? And so that they can keep this in this purse. It's convenient, comes with chocolate, all these things, all these things. She's created this package, but she knows exactly who her audience is, right? She knows those. She can market directly to the people who are who experience this from a diagnosis standpoint, right? Or just women who want to grab on the go, right? And so she's researching exactly how to get to them, age group, all that demographics in order to know exactly who she needs to market to for that. So the due diligence on B2C is different from B2B because it's more about knowing the market and being able to get the reach that you want to automate that marketing to them in order to close the deal. Another tidbit: marketing and sales are not the same thing. So stop hiring sales and marketing people, right? Because the sales and marketing are though they complement each other. Marketing is about that audience build, that knowing exactly who you're talking to, how you're talking to, and doing that in the highest, most quality way possible, right? Sales is about getting the lead and closing the deal and managing that account. That's completely different. You don't want to take your salespeople off of doing marketing. I mean, you don't want to take your salespeople off of account managing and getting more leads and closing more deals to do marketing work. And you don't want the marketing people to be managing accounts when they should be pushing the message out to bring more accounts in, right? The marketing people should be really focused on reach and conversions, right? Leads. And your salespeople should be focused on leads and consumers and account management. So even in your own career, thinking about which role you want to play. If you want to be on the marketing side, it's all about marketing, right? It's about reach, and converting. Sales side is about account management and closing the deal.
That's a great differentiation. And Deb called that out as well, that lots of people use those terms interchangeably, and they are indeed very different. So something worth noting. Yes. Is there anything else you want to share with us, Bjorn? We also have some more time if people have questions, but
I like the Q&A better. I hope you guys find this valuable. I'm trying something different. I got a couple more sessions, so I'm trying to figure out which is the better flow. But I like this Q&A. Are there more questions from the group?
Let's see if anything comes in, or feel free to unmute yourself, guys, and ask Bjorn directly. That's totally good too. If anyone has anything.
Okay, so, I was just getting ready to pull that back up.
I have it here. I can drop it in the chat too. So we will get you Bjorn's contact information for sure. Sure. And here, I got it right here. Oh, very good. And I just put his email there, but you can connect with him on LinkedIn, Facebook, all these different avenues for sure. I'm wondering if you would regale us with maybe a story about a time where maybe pitching didn't go so well with either a customer or an investor, either one, but maybe just so we can learn from either a time that it didn't go well, and then maybe a time where you nailed it. I don't know, something like that.
No, that's great. Okay, yeah. So the first time I went to pitch Kroger, and I'm gonna talk about personal. I don't like to talk about my founders that I work with. I run a couple ecosystem programs in Cincinnati and down here and other places, but I'll talk personally. But my first time going to pitch Kroger, I'm talking, we're going through our sales presentation, all this, and when we get to our reason to believe side or our testimonials and impact, we use our Walmart case study. And Kroger saw Walmart. It's we're in a Kroger office and this big Walmart logo goes up and you can just see their eyes go from joy to WTF. It's that's a no. It's so now it shifted the entire presentation to, well, what did Walmart do? How much did Walmart pay? You know what I mean? It's changed the entire tone. So know your customers. No, and that was a rookie mistake, honestly, because we know that Walmart, we thought that Kroger was going to look at them and be like, yo, we're going to buy it because Walmart's doing it. While Kroger's like, no, we want to be on the leading edge of things. We don't want to do what Walmart's doing. We want to beat Walmart. So we don't want to use this solution if you guys are going to be working with Walmart. So that goes to knowing your customers, knowing their market, knowing their competitors and what their competitors are doing is a great way. I will also add this if you guys are taking notes. When you the tangible materials to have for your customers is case studies. Testimonials and case studies are the same thing. So I need to just make sure, clarify that. Having those case studies say, hey, we did this, this is how it worked, this is the process that we went through. Case studies are so important, so important, so important. And getting the habit of building case studies from your best experiences, and even some of your most challenging experiences. Case studies are so important. I could spend a lot of time adding that to the next conversation too, just about case studies and how important that is, right? Taking the customer journey and pulling that into a presentation that people can share, they can relate to. And so another thing to take with you is that make sure that you know your competitors and don't go into a pitch presentation with your your customers or potential customers, number one competitor blasted on their on their screen.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Great story.
That did not go so well.
What about a time when you like nailed it and hit it out of the park?
I would say, so again, when we're doing consumer feedback solutions, and when we went to pitch, so there's this big music festival that goes on in Cincinnati every year called the Cincinnati Music Festival. It's like second to Essence Festival, if you're familiar with that. But it's huge. They take over the the Bengal Stadium, and it's like 3 days. It's a big festival. We literally went. They weren't capturing data. We went as consumers. The first year we were new to the city, and then the second, and in the time between the first time we went and the up and coming festival, we've got the opportunity to pitch. And so we pitched the Visitors Bureau and saying, hey, you guys, we noticed you guys aren't capturing data from the music festival. Here's how we can help, right? Adding data to your business can help you, tailor marketing, focus your reach, all these things, to where we closed the deal at the end of the meeting. One of the biggest and first deals that we had closed almost instantly within that meeting, because it was something they haven't thought in depth about. They knew that they can trust us to handle it. It was innovative, and it was going to help and improve their efficiency and effectiveness. And so that day they closed it. It was one of the biggest contracts on our early contracts that we had. But introducing, that's what I was saying, to understand what their problem is, or if you find their problem that they don't know that they have, introduce that, ask questions around that. And we were asking, how are you capturing data? It's like, well, we tried to do some surveys, and the surveys, people just kept passing them by, and incentives cost us too much. That's how we got in. They were saying the incentive to get the people to take the survey costs too much, and so we wanted to cut that program. Well, here's what we can do. Here's what we do. Here's what we can do for you. Is how we tailor it and close it, day one. And those are the best meetings.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I just took a different format and wanted to have more of a conversation. I think it went well. Thank you for everybody who participated. Did we have some entrepreneurs in the room? Anybody who's working on a company?